will never talk to her ever again. I will never be able to hold her again. But I forgive you. We welcome you Wednesday night in our Bible study with open arms. You have killed some of the most beautifulest people that I know. Every fiber in my body hurts, and I'll never be the same. For me, I'm a work in progress, and I acknowledge that I am very angry. But one thing that Payton has always joined in our family with is that she taught me that we are the family that love built. We have no room for hate, so we have to forgive. And I pray God on your soul.
She was my big cousin, she was my big sister, and everything she did, I wanted to do it too.
An ADOS dude, there was an ADOS dude named Bill something, Bill the Icon.
Bring all the dirty laundry.
I'm gonna try not to be long, but I just wanted to tap in really quickly. Hopefully my comments will be brief and to the point. I got a couple of clips loaded up to expound on what I want to mention. And you see the headline here where it says family members of Buffalo mass shooting want focus on preventing racial violence, not the death penalty. So here we go. First thing came to mind was I can almost envision, once the court case starts to proceed, that these Negroes will be front and center on camera somewhere forgiving Payton Gendron, who massacred 11 innocent people in Buffalo last May. So, as federal prosecutors are themselves considering what punishment to seek against Payton Gendron, survivors and family members of the victims of the shootings are concerned that pursuing the death penalty will somehow further spread the racial hatred that fueled the massacre and divert attention from meaningful action to combat white supremacist violence. Now, why can't we do two things at once? Why can't we give him the death penalty, advocate for the death penalty, make sure he receives the death penalty, while at the same time taking action to combat white supremacist violence as a whole? Now, there's three people in particular, and this was from an interview that aired on September the 1st with Wayne Jones, the gentleman in the white hat, Garnell Whitfield Jr., the gentleman pictured with Benjamin Crump, and the young lady, Fragrance Harris, who was a store worker. Fragrance Harris Stanfield. She survived the shooting, and she also questioned the appropriateness of the death penalty in the case. Wayne Jones stated that if you kill him, he becomes a martyr, inspiring others radicalized by online conspiracy theories and racist political rhetoric to replicate his acts. And I disagree. You may spur some copycats, but I believe that there is enough racial animus already in the ether for anyone who has these types of ideologies and the means to act upon them, to hop into action at any given time, just as Payton Gendron did. So they're saying that punishing the shooter isn't the issue, and this is Garnell Whitfield Jr., who was top brass at the fire department in Buffalo. And again, his concern is combating white supremacy. He says, this ain't about that guy. I'm focused on the things that empowered him and the reason he became who he was. The systems and the people that continue to be empowered to this day, that continue to make victims of us all. And kumbaya, my guy. But we have to deal with this guy and send a message to any others, to those who might have a shred of good sense left. This sends a message. The death penalty sends a message. It's not going to prevent all instances of these types of crimes. But if they make one person think, I think it's worth the effort. And it just reminds me because in this case wasn't as serious, but there was a situation with a black man in Central Park in New York walking his dog. Or no, he was bird watching, and there was a young Karen walking her dog, and they got into a verbal confrontation over her having her dog unleashed in an area where that was forbidden. And the whole thing went viral. He put her on social media. She called into the police and started crying on 911, saying she was being harassed. She was afraid for her safety and her dog. She was eventually charged with filing a false report or something to that effect. I believe she was indicted, and all of this hoopla on social media, in the media, with the gentleman being interviewed, telling his side of the story, all for, in the end, for him to voluntarily drop the charges and not allow her to face any sort of repercussions legally or criminally for her actions, thereby depriving her of a valuable lesson in filing false police reports or making false accusations to the police. I can't fight for you harder than you're going to fight for yourself. What happened in Buffalo, it hit all of us pretty hard. Even though we were not familiar with the victims, we didn't know the victims. These victims could have been members of our family, our friends, our loved ones. So naturally, we all on one accord want to definitely seek the maximum amount of justice that we can receive for the lives that were lost. And no, this ain't about Payton Gendron solely. It's about the lives that he took and those who are left behind, who will never be in the presence of their loved ones again. And I believe the appropriate sentence, once he's convicted, would be the death penalty, to send a signal. But before we get to all of that, and just wanted to consider, why do black people always take the subservient position even when we're done great harm, be it physically, be it politically, be it socially? We suffer the greatest amount of attacks, the greatest amount of systemic violence, political indifference than any one other group in this country, the American descendants of slavery. But we're the first to always take a position of forgiveness, even before someone offers an apology, even before amends are even made. We'll offer an apology. We just want things to, be over with and be put behind us. And we're not usually 100% focused on receiving justice. And I'm going to play these two clips, one from Resma Menaken, a very intelligent, wise brother who deals with racial psychology. And then there's going to be a clip following that from the illustrious elder Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, who has gone on to be with the ancestors. And they're going to pretty much explain why black people always are quick to forgive when great harm has been done to us. And Dr. Welsing is also going to prescribe a recipe for when we might be able to sincerely forgive one when wrong has been done to us. So check out these two clips. I know they're long, but I had to give them to you in long form for you to get the full impact. I'm just going to leave this with you. Hop down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts Smash like on this video, and if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to Dirty Laundry Media. Smash that notification bell so you'll be alerted whenever I drop new content. And again, this is your man online, Bill Money, signing off. I'll see you on the other side.
Take you guys through a quick thing right quick, and this is how it works. And this is the lens I'm trying to help y'all, the philosophical lens I'm trying to help y'all begin to develop. So, do y'all remember when Brother Botham got killed with that white cop kicked in his door and shot him in the chest on the couch? Y'all remember that? Right? Brother was just, doing his thing, smoking a little doobage, eating some ice cream, chilling in his underwear, and here she come busting, kicking in the door and put 2 in his chest. Right? Y'all remember that? So remember the whole court case went through, right? And then the sentencing came. And then once the sentencing came, this wild thing happened in the courtroom where the bailiff started stroking her hair, right? And everybody was saying, the family was saying, we forgive her, and all of that different type. Y'all remember all of that? And it went, and the fire got stoked in a lot of people in our community. Like, what? And the judge came down and hugged her and handed her a Bible and all that different type of stuff, right? And so, if you remember, after that, people in the Black community was at odds with each other. Look, how are you going to do that? And we need to forgive, and we need to. And here's what I want to say, is that what we forget is that white comfort always trumps our liberation.
That's right.
White comfort. And so what you watched is what I call racial caping, right? It is not a defective mechanism in Black people. It is a protective mechanism in Black people. Because we know that when white people get nervous, Black people die. When white people get nervous, Black people lose their jobs. When white people get nervous, Black people lose their stature, right? And so we reflexively make moves to calm white people down, to protect ourselves and other people. And so when you watch that happen, what you're watching is racial caping. It is so long and embedded. We have had this place where we have had to take care of white people and their children. And that stuff did not go anywhere just because we got older. And so when you watch that happen, you're watching racial caping, and you're watching us trying to protect something, but we don't have going back to decontextualize, but we don't have a language to explain why we reflexively do it. Black people, we are not afforded the ability to grieve and hate and rage when somebody murders our people. We are not afforded that. So what we do is we reflexively move towards things like forgiveness quickly.
I think that, just automatic forgiveness when it comes to Black people being harmed or killed or injured by people who classify themselves as white. We don't hear people who are white if they have feel they have sustained some injury or harm from a Black person. We don't hear them saying, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive. So I think that it is a part of Black people's tradition from the time of enslavement. Do you see, where the slave master could beat the Black person, and I could just envision the Black person being beaten, and the slave master or the slave mistress would be saying, say that you forgive me. You see, and then giving them another lash. Say that you forgive me. And so the black person doesn't have a choice but to say, I forgive, Master. I forgive. I forgive. I forgive. I mean, I certainly understand what has happened to black people and where that pattern comes in. But when we were in formal slavery, I heard a white female explain to a young black man, this was at a Race Relations Institute a number of years ago, and the young black man in a small group discussion, he said, I don't believe in racism, I'm a Christian. And an older white female said to him, son, we, meaning we white people, gave you that tradition. We gave you that religion. And we emphasized three things. Slave, obey your master. Turn the other cheek, and you will get your reward in heaven. And so that is the yoke that black people, I say by and large, are still under. And most black people are not thinking about or understanding that we are in a total system structure of racism. Well, see, you can't run an oppressive state or plantation or a prison and have the inmates become angry at the jailer. So you, if possible, you engage in the psychological warfare of teaching them a philosophy of forgiveness. Now, the prisoner or the slave on the plantation hasn't been let free. The prisoner in the prison hasn't been said, we forgive you, and so your sentence is terminated. No one is speaking to the prisoner or the slave on the plantation in that way. But the plantation is run by beating, well, first and foremost, I would say, and maybe somebody will be offended, I would hope not, that when you give the enslaved Africans an image of God that is the same image of the slave master, and say that you must behave yourself so that this image of God, which is the same image of the slave master, so that God will love you and admit you into heaven. You must forgive the slave master. Now, that was the position that black people were in for hundreds of years, during the years of formal enslavement. And what could they do about it when they were beaten and killed at whim? You see, and so that's when these ideas were implanted, and we must begin to step back and view them more objectively and understand that this is an aspect of the maintenance of oppression. And those black people who are admonishing black people that they should forgive, I would say that those people have been harmed by having their self-respect as black people annihilated, whether they're conscious of it or whether they are subconscious. And if we as black people decide that we are going to respect ourselves, and this is one of the things that has happened to black people in the 500 years of our oppression, including the phase of slavery, formal slavery, is that black self-respect has been completely annihilated. And so, you know, we say, okay, I forgive, and then we take the pain and frustration out on each other. It's just like in South Africa, truth and reconciliation. So the people who brutalize black people are allowed to go unpunished. But the pain that is inside of black people goes out towards one another. And the system of racism, white supremacy, continues. So I am making the recommendation for black people's mental health that black people take the position that all of these things that we are dealing with, the killing of black men every week, every other day, the incarceration of black men, the unjust sentencing, gentrification, the removal of black people from urban centers across this country, that all of this is the face of racism, white supremacy. And black people have to take the position. We're not going to be in the position of saying we forgive. No, what we're going to insist upon is, number one, that racism, white supremacy as a total system structure be recognized. And number two, when that system has been brought to an end and replaced with a system of justice, then the consideration of forgiveness, if that won't even be in order, because the system of injustice will have been removed and a system of justice established. Now that's my position as a black psychiatrist, and I would say that I'm certainly recommending that as important for black people's mental health in this system, that the foundation of the position is that we are going to have respect for ourselves second to none. And instead of denying and making apologies for the system of racism, white supremacy, that we are going to hold people who classify themselves as white, because the only reason for the white classification is to take advantage of the established and structured system of racism, white supremacy, and that we are going to hold people who classify themselves as white responsible. We're not going to spend any time hating white people, but we are going to hold every person who classifies him or herself as white responsible for changing the system. If they want to take a position that they're not racist, well, then stop the people who classify themselves as white, who are. Don't come and join black people. Take the John Brown position and stop the people who are engaging in the practice of racism, white supremacy. And, you know, that's not just calling somebody nigger or the N-word if you want to play euphemisms. But no, the system of racism, as stated by Neely Fuller, functions in all areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.
Huh?